This might be a fast-paced tutorial, and if you are not able to follow along, please make sure that you're watching it at an appropriate speed. If you want, you can watch it slower, you can pause it at several intervals, but make sure that you are able to make all the parts and you're able to follow. So we've got 5 parts to make for the knuckle joint assembly. You can also see the CAD of all these parts over here. Essentially, these are the names of all the parts, and we'll be referring multiple times to this engineering drawing just to check the dimensions. So we'll start by making the first part, which is called the pin, and it's just there. We've got the dimensions. It's literally a cylinder. You can see over here. It's a cylinder of diameter 10 and a length of 75. Just one thing to point out that in this engineering drawing, this 75 should not have this diameter symbol. And if you see an R in like before the dimension value, it's basically a radius. And another thing to note is that if the units are not specified, you can assume them to be in millimeters. So let's make this cylinder of length 75 and diameter 10. Okay, so in your Fusion workspace, let's save this file first and let's call it 5.pin. And very quickly, it's just a cylinder, so a new sketch, C for circle, diameter 10. And we know that we are right now in the sketch workspace because we have the symbol. So make sure you finish the sketch and we'll extrude this. So create, extrude, and the height is 75. That's it. So we've got our first part done. Let's save this. Let's go ahead and start making the second part and save this as 4.color. Let's have a look at the dimensions quickly. So the collar is essentially a ring and we can make it using 2 concentric circles. So over here, the outer diameter of that ring is 70 and we need to find the inner diameter. And if we can visualize the assembly, we know that the knuckle pin is what goes into the collar. So the diameter of the knuckle pin should be the same as the inner diameter of the collar. So we've got 2 circles, one with diameter 70, one with a diameter of 50. Okay, so let's make that. So C shortcut 50 and another one 70. Okay, let's finish this and let's extrude it. We need to know the height of the collar. So for that, we'll go back to the drawing. The total height is 20. So let's change this value to 20. One more step before we can finish the collar, we need a through hole. So as you might have already understood that we can use either of the two planes. So any plane that's perpendicular to the base plane. So let's choose that one. And we need to make a circle for the through hole. Before that, we need to find how high above from the bottom plane it is. And from this, we can figure out that the hole is at the center of the total height. So it has to be half of 20. So let's make a reference line from the origin and we can use math because Fusion can do math for you. So we can do 20 by 2, which is 10, but you can use Fusion for that. Let's convert this to a construction line. You can change the line type by clicking construction in the sketch palette. And let's start a circle. We'll use this point for the center of the circle. The diameter is 10 and we've got our circle here. So we can finish the sketch now and very quickly go to create, extrude and start extruding it. One thing to note is that it is a new body that is being created and as soon as it intersects with another part, it recognizes that subtraction or cutting might be the operation that the user might want and that's why it changes to cut. You can also notice that from the operation in the dialog box. You've got multiple operations, so you can change it back to a new body or you can join it. But right now we want to cut it. Also, because we want it in both the directions, so let's change it to symmetric. Okay, so that's our color done. So let's save it. Let's start making another part without wasting any time. Let's call it 3.knuckle pin. For that, we need the dimensions again. So knuckle pin is essentially a cylinder, a very tall cylinder with a disc on top and a through hole. So let's make this tall cylinder first. Two things for the cylinder, diameter and the height. So the diameter is 50 and how much is the height? It's 30 plus 130, right? So let's do that. Diameter 50. Let's make a circle. The same process. So C for circle, diameter 50. Finish the sketch. Let's quickly extrude it. And we can do math. So 30 plus 130. So we've got a tall cylinder. This time we are going to start a new sketch on the top of the cylinder. So this will be our plane for the sketch. So click on that, create sketch. And now we need to create a disk. And for that, again, disk is basically a cylinder. So we need the diameter and the height. Diameter is 70 and the height is 15. So diameter of 70. Finish the sketch. This time we have to extrude it again. Just make sure that you're selecting both the profiles that you have, and the height was 15. We just need to make a through hole just like collar. For that we will turn on the origin and we can use any of the perpendicular planes again. We need to find the center point of the circle that we need for the through hole, and for that let's refer to the drawing again. So we see that the through hole is at a height of 30 mm from the bottom of the pin. So let's make a line that starts from this point, is 30 mm in height. Make sure it's a construction line, and let's make a circle of diameter 10. So this time for extrusion, after you finish the sketch, you might not be able to very easily click on that because you've got a body. So just to quickly draw your attention to this, all the bodies that you make in Fusion are in a folder called bodies, so you can turn it on and off. You can toggle it. Similarly, for sketches, you can toggle the sketches on and off. So this was the first sketch that we created. That's third sketch essentially, and that's the second sketch. So you can work with all of them, right? So for now, we will turn the body off and we will select the extrude command, select the profile, and we'll start dragging to make the hole. Again, we want it symmetric, but right now it's not subtracting from anything. And that is because the body, the original body, the knuckle pin is hidden. So we need to turn that on. And as soon as it's on, Fusion recognizes that we want to cut it. And you can also check that it's cutting through body one, which is your knuckle pin. And you can click OK after this. And you've got the through hole. And your knuckle pin is done. Okay. I know I'm going quite fast, but please make sure you're watching it at an appropriate speed if you want to. Okay, because till now all the steps that we did were very simple and you should be fairly comfortable in doing them now. Okay, so let's make the next part, which is the eye end. It's called the eye end rod. So let's save the file. One dot eye end rod, and let's look at the engineering drawing. So we've got the drawing over here. Bring it here. Okay, so we've got two views for this. This is the top view, this is the front view. It looks a little bit complicated, and for any complicated part you're making, we just try to break it down into smaller parts, which are simple to make, and we combine them. And that's how we are going to make the fork end and the eye end. Okay, so we can see that we've got two concentric circles. So let's go step by step. Let's make those two concentric circles, one with a radius of 25, the other one with a radius of 50. Okay, remember it's a radius, so we have to give a value that's double of radius. So 25 times 2, and another circle, which is 50 times 2. Right. So we've got these two concentric circles. One thing more we can make is a rectangle which passes through these two circles to make the rest of the body. And hopefully you will understand it after we've done it, but just try to visualize. So we need a rectangle which is of a width 60 and is of a length 200. But one very important thing to notice is that that rectangle starts from this edge of the concentric circle. Okay, so to make this rectangle, and because we know it's symmetric, we can make two rectangles. We can start from this edge, we can make half of the rectangle, so the length is 200, but the width is 30. Also, to toggle the dimensions, because you need to give two dimensions for the rectangle, you can use the tab button on your keyboard. Okay, so 200 by 30 and another rectangle, which is this time at the bottom and also with dimensions 200 times 30. Okay, so we've got this shape which has a lot of lines in it. One thing I want you to note right now is that you only have one sketch, and all the lines till now I've created, the two concentric circles and the rectangles, are in a single sketch. Please make sure that if you've got more than one sketch, please delete any of the sketches and just make all the lines in a single sketch. And why do we need that? We need that because we need to use the trim command to remove any of the lines, and that only works in a single sketch. So trim command lets you remove any of the line segments in your drawing, and if you try to hover over any of the lines, you can just click on them and delete them. So we want to get rid of some of the extra lines. You might also note that the middle line, you might have to click twice because remember we made two rectangles, so it's overlapping two lines. Okay. So what we want to achieve is something like this. Before we actually finish the sketch, I want to quickly show you the fillet command. So fillet is basically curving two edges which make a sharp corner. So if you've got a sharp corner or a vertex over here, we can actually make a curve over here, which is called a fillet. And that's what we are going to do. So you select the command and you click on the two edges. Then you can drag this arrow around to make it smoother. And we need a fillet radius for that, and the radius over here is 50. So let's give this value 50, and we ideally need it on both these ends, but for now just bear with me, do it on one of the end. Okay, so let's finish the sketch and let's extrude it. We need to know the height, and we can see that the height is 60, so let's extrude it for 60. Okay, now you notice that this side is very smooth, that's how we want it, and this side is not. And I deliberately did this so that I can show you the fillet command in 3D. So fillet can be done in 2D as well as in 3D. So if you go to modify, you click on fillet, you just need to select any of the edges that you want to make smoother. So for example, in this case, we want to make this edge smoother. We just want to drag it out to make it as smooth as we want. We know the fillet radius is 50, so we give it 50 and press enter. So now both the sharp corners are equally smooth, and we can go ahead and make rest of the features. Okay, so after this we've got these cylindrical ends. For cylinder we just need the diameter and the height again. Diameter of the circle, right? So we are going to make a circle on this face. So select the face, start a new sketch. Also, we need to find the center point. For that, we can create a diagonal on this square, and essentially it's a construction line. So let's change it to a construction line. The shortcut is X. We are going to make a circle with C, and the diameter is 50. Make sure that you have been able to find the center. So if you did not notice, I'll show you again. When it is the midpoint of line, the cursor actually changes to a triangle. Okay, so make sure you've got that center perfectly correct. So we make the diameter 50, finish the sketch. Let's extrude it to a length of 50. So we've got a cylinder as well. Just one last thing to do in the eye end is to make these features, which are the flat features. Before we do that, I want to show you another command, which is called chamfer. So we've seen fillet. Another command is chamfer, which actually lets you flatten the edges, flatten the sharp edges. So fillet lets you curve the edges or smoothen or round the edges, but chamfer lets you flatten them. So let's try chamfer on this edge. And if you try and drag this arrow, you can see that the edge becomes chamfered. But the problem is that this is not what we want because chamfer is a continuous command and it will operate on the whole edge of our eye end. But we do not want that because in our drawing we can see we only want it until a depth of 60. Okay, so for that, what we can do is we are going to make a polygon on this face. Let's see what a polygon is. So first we select this face, start a new sketch, and this time instead of a line, rectangle, or circle, we are going to go to the polygon command. There are two types of polygons, an inscribed polygon and a circumscribed polygon. Inscribed polygon is basically a polygon that's inside a circle, so that's the easier way of understanding it. Circumscribed is the opposite of that. So this time we'll be choosing the circumscribed polygon. Works very similar to a circle. You select the center point. You should be able to very easily select it because you already have the cylinder there. So select the center point and you drag it out. Okay, we don't know the dimension of the edge for this polygon, but we do know is that we need an octagon. By default, Fusion makes a hexagon with 6 edges. So go ahead and change the value of 6 to 8. The next thing, we don't have to give a specific length, but what we know is that the edge of the polygon is coincident or is aligned with the edge of this square face. So we can go ahead and select any of the center point of this square edge, right? So origin would be the safer choice. You can do it, then finish the sketch. What this very quickly gives us is these four corners that would be useful to make that controlled chamfer edge. So we are going to use the extrude command again and select all of the four corners. If you can't select it, make sure you are rotating the view. Okay, and then we can drag the arrow in. And as per the engineering drawing, we know that it has to be a length of 60. So let's make it minus 60. And the only thing left to do now is to make these edges curved, and we've already seen how to make these sharp corners curved. We use the fillet command. So you click on fillet, select all the edges. If you forget to select some of the edges, you can do so by clicking on the plus button, but you can rotate the view and take your time, select all the edges. The next thing we need is the fillet radius because that is important and it's given in the drawing to be 12. So we'll change this value to 12. And that's our eye end rod done. Let's save it. And without any delay, let's start the last part, which is the fork end. So let's go ahead and save this file called to. Okay, so the same process, what we did, we try to break it down into simpler parts. One thing you should notice is that fork end is a little bit more complicated. It has two discs instead of just one disc, two concentric circles, but we'll follow a different process this time and we'll see how to make the fork end. Okay, so again, we will have a look at the top view first. We can still see that there are two concentric circles. So let's just do that, the same process. So a circle of radius 25. So I'm doing it twice because I need to give the value of a diameter and a radius of 50. Okay, this time I'm going to finish the sketch already and I'm going to just extrude this. Let's see how much should be extruded. So our extrusion should be 30 mm high. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, now is the interesting bit because it's a command we have not seen before. But what we do know is that we have these two discs that are 60 mm apart. So basically we have another disc which is 60 mm higher than the original one. So what we can do is we can just copy this part and move it 60 mm up. So we'll go to modify, we'll select the move and copy command. Make sure the move object type is bodies because that's what we have right now. So one thing what you want to do is to make sure that the pivot point, basically the reference about which you're going to modify it, is properly selected. This case, we will be selecting the bottom edge of this body. Before that, we need to select the body itself. So you need to click on set pivot and then you need to click on the bottom circular edge, either of the circular edge, which is fine. And after that, you need to press done for setting the pivot. What this does is it fixes that tool, which is basically the 3 translation and 3 rotation motions that are possible to that specific point. Basically, any modification will happen in reference to that point. Okay. To quickly know how much we should move it up, okay, we need to do that. But before that, we need to know how far above we need to move. Okay. So for that, let's see how far it is. Okay. So I'll use this tool. Our pivot point is set at this point, and this is our disk that we already have. And we want another disk which is over here. What we need is this distance. Okay. And this is what? It is 30 plus 60, right? So let's not change the drawing as it is, but I just wanted to show you. So we are going to create a copy by taking this box and we are going to drag it above. We've just checked that the distance between these two is 90, and we've made another disk which is having a separation of 60 between these two faces. How to check all of that? You can select both the faces. So if you press shift and you select both of these faces, in this bottom right corner, you can check what is the minimum distance between them. Okay. A better way to do it is to use the inspect tool called measure, and you can measure the distance between two edges. You need to just press shift when you select multiple edges or faces. You can see that the distance between them is 60. Okay, so let's go ahead and make the rest of it. So we'll come to the front view. We are going to start a new sketch this time, and we'll see a new command called project. So you go to create, go to project, shortcut is P, and what project does is it essentially brings any edges from the 3D CAD bodies into our 2D drawing. Okay, so you literally just click on the bodies and you've got these lines. If I turn the bodies off, you can see these lines. Okay, and this will act as a reference for our another view that we want to make, which is basically this view. Let me zoom into that a bit. Okay, so we've got these two disks, we've got these reference points. So let's go ahead and make a reference rectangle, which is basically 250 in length, and the total width is 30 plus 60 plus 30, which is 120, right? So 120 by 250, let's make that rectangle quickly now. So we'll start from one of this corner, going to give it a length of 250, the height is 120, and that's our reference rectangle. The next thing we can see is that we've got these beautiful circular edges. So we've got one circle over here, which is at a distance of 100 from this edge of the rectangle. Okay, so let's go ahead and make that. So if we start a line from the center of this line, and how do I know it's the center? Because my cursor changes to a triangle. So I start making this line horizontal. Make sure you're snapping it to the horizontal plane. And I know the length is 100, so let's go ahead and make it 100 long. We need to change it to a construction line, so let's use the shortcut X, or you can do it from the line type command here. Next, we will make a circle. You will use this as the center point and just snap it to one of the corner points that we have. We need to make another circle. You can have a look in the engineering drawing, but that circle basically goes to the very edge of the other point on our disk. Okay, next we need a similar rectangle that we made for the eye end to make the end of this rod. Again, the width of this is 60. Okay, we don't really know the length, so we'll make it all the way through 250. And again, we know that it's symmetric about the center line, so we will make a 30 tall rectangle, okay, from this center point. Again, how do I know it's the center point? Because my cursor changes to a triangle. So I've selected the 2-point rectangle. I click over here and I start making a rectangle. Okay, my length is 250 and my height is 30. I repeat it, but this time for the bottom side. So length of 250, height of 30, enter. Okay, we've got a lot of lines, we've got a lot of circles, so let's use the trim command. We've done this before. Let's get rid of some of the extra lines. So trim command, let's see if you can visualize which lines you should get rid of, but I'll show you what you should have in the end. We are just trying to achieve something very close to our final drawing in the front view. So this is how we need the sketch to be. I think I've got one extra line. Okay, so this is how our sketch should be. So let's go ahead and finish the sketch, and it kind of looks like a fork. Also, if you turn the bodies on now, you can see that you've got the discs there, but this time we will keep both the bodies off, and we are going to extrude this sketch symmetrically, and we need to see how far we should extrude it, and that should be the thickness of this part. Again, because it's symmetric, we will be doing 30. So change the direction to symmetric, change the distance to 30, and we've got a separate part from the two discs that we made earlier. Okay, right. So before we join all these parts together and make the modifications, we need to do one more thing, and we need to make an extra sketch on this top face. So go ahead and select this top face, create a new sketch, and we'll quickly use we are not going to draw too many things, we'll just use the project command because we need this as a reference later. So we'll select the disk, we'll select the rectangular face, and we press OK. That's it, you finish that sketch. And you will see why did we do that in a second. So now the objective is to join all of these parts together. For that, we will use the combine option in the modify drop down. So you click on combine. Again, you can do different operations. You can join, you can cut, and you can intersect. You can explore these commands if you want. We need to select two things. We need to select a target body, which will be the body that's going to be the final body, and everything's going to be joined to that. And we need the tool bodies. It can be one or more than one bodies that are going to be joined to the target body. So for our case, this will be the target body, and the other two will be the tool bodies. As soon as you click OK, your tool bodies are going to disappear, which is body 1 and body 2. And the only thing you'll be left with is body 3 with everything joined into it. If you want to keep the tool bodies, you can do that by clicking on this keep tools option, but we don't want to do that for now. So let's just go ahead and click OK. Takes a while, but we've got something like this. Now you see that we've lost that hole in the center, and that's where this top sketch that we just made would be useful. So we will use the extrude command now. We will be selecting the center hole because we do want it, and these extra triangles which we do not want. So to make the hole, we'll just cut everything and also those triangles, and you can just extrude all of it all the way through. And voila, we've got kind of fork that we wanted. We are very near to the end, so just keep going. Okay, so we want to make these edges, which are the sharp corners, curved or rounded, and we've done this multiple times now. We'll be using the fillet command. So go ahead and select these four edges. Let's see how much is the fillet radius. Can you figure out? Yes, the fillet radius is 50 this time. This is the view because you're looking in the front view, and also in the top view you can make sure. So this is 50. So let's go ahead and do that. 50. And we've got another fillet that we need to make, which is just right there. And this one is 50 as well. Okay, so that's our fork more or less done. We just need to make the cylinder and the chamfered edge. Okay, so the same commands that we did for the IN, we'll create a circle over here and then use it as a cylinder. So just draw the diagonal to get the center point, change it to a construction line, use the circle command, make a circle of diameter 50, finish the sketch, and extrude it to a height of 50. Okay, I did it quite quickly, but you can play it slower if you want. Next, we need to make a polygon on this. We've already seen that. So start a new sketch, go to polygon, circumscribe polygon, find the center point. Because we don't know the dimension, we are going to snap it, but before that, change the number of edges to 8 so that we have an octagon. And just like last time, we are going to snap it to one of the center points of the edge of the square. Once you've done that, you can finish the sketch. Okay, let's do the extrude command. So we'll be selecting these 4 corners and we'll be dragging them in just to see how far we have to go. It is 60. So let's do this minus 60, right? And we just need to make these edges smoother again. So we'll be using the fillet command for the last time. Okay, once you've selected all of these 4 edges, we can check the fillet radius. It should be the same, it's 12. So let's give it a value of 12. Press OK. That's your fork end done. So now we have seen all the 5 parts. Make sure you have saved all of them so that you can assemble them in the next tutorial.